Good morning, everybody. Please take your seats. I would say we have a packed agenda this morning, but that would be an insult to packed agendas. So we're going to get started. We're about 4 minutes late, so hopefully you'll be gracious and stay 4 minutes. Let's see, there's Megan. Oh, thank you. Megan Roberts from Ash, our coffee sponsor. Thank you.
Everybody just showing up this morning. Surprised we're only 4 minutes late if your morning was like mine. So feel like I'll give some time back soon.
You only have to say 3 minutes late. Thank you. Any guests who are here for the first time? All right. Back to 6 minutes late. If you're guests, please raise your hand again. We're going to ask you to just stand up, introduce yourself, take 20 seconds to tell us who you are and what you do. And I will trust you to delegate amongst yourselves. You guys first.
Good morning. My name is Merida Odiorn. This is my first time to the monthly meeting, although I've come to your annual conferences for I think about the last 13 years. So I think I'm a guest. Anyways, I'm a health insurance broker with J Short Insurance.
Hello, I'm Ralph Spiegel. I'm a private financial planner and tax preparation. First time here.
Hi, I'm Erica Brown. I'm on the Durango 9-hour board of education. Hi, I'm Jessica Merritt from Sutter Miller and Associates. I work as an engineer there.
Hi, I'm Jonathan Webb. I'm here to support my best friend, Brian Velasca, and his brokerage here in town.
I'm Corey Finney and I run the Dairy Colorado Venture Board.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Rubbery and I am with the Southern Indian Tribe in economic development. It's definitely not my first time here, but I haven't been here since before the pandemic, so it's been a while. Hi, I'm Whitney Rosenfeld and I volunteer in the long-term financial.
I'm Teresa Larson. I am a Marine Corps veteran. I run a leadership and human performance company here in Durango in the support industry. And I'm on the deck.
My name is John Lace. I'm the CEO of Valentine Communications. I'm new to Durango.
All right. Yes.
Hi, I'm Shirley Gonzalez. I'm with Pedal the Peaks Bike Shop, and I've been here once, but it's been a while.
Any other first-time attendees? For folks in the back who are standing, we have 4 open seats up front. I won't keep yelling. I'll just take a moment to mention a few quick things about the Alliance. We are in the middle of our executive director, Mike Friend's annual review. And I think Mike's been doing a fabulous job, but it's the time of year where we put that on paper. And if you're a board member, a lot of board members are in here, you'll be getting an email from me soon to take part in that process. And we will also, towards the end of this year, we have several months, I think it's in October. In October, we will have 2 board seats up for election. So between now and then, maybe come back to a few meetings. If you've been here, you know what we're about. If you're new, you'll get to learn about us. And if you're interested, we'll put out a call for nominations. And then in October, we'll elect 2 new board members. We'll jump. And is there anything? No, we're good. Gonna jump right into updates. Mr. Mayor.
That was quick.
Yeah,
All right.
Yeah, slides or no
I'm
slides.
not, yeah, I just got one. So I was thinking statistics, numbers, we could talk about all that stuff. I wanted to show you something that's going on in Ignacio. So this is our Dancing Spirit, the Community Arts Center. We are going vertical with it. So I say that's Casey Korea has been putting this together for close to 5 years. And so this is very exciting. This is a brand new structure in Ignacio. I welcome you guys to come out and take a look at it. They're flying the trusses as we speak. And so it's coming together. It's a real thing and it's happening. So that's my update. Oh, yeah, we're doing housing. So we got that.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're back to 3 minutes. So. All right, up next, County Manager Chuck.
Hey,
Steven.
all right, good morning, everyone. So first things first, I know the Alliance reached out to me last week asking where your check is. So checks went out last week, should be in the mail this week. So anybody who gets funding from the county, public service agencies, those dollars should be coming to you hopefully by the end of this week. It's been a year. It's been 14 months actually since last time I stood in front of this group and talked, and a lot has happened. Primarily with our community development department. So that's where I'd like to start. So when I talked to you last time, I believe it was December of last year, 22, we had some significant turnover in our community development department. We lost our director, we lost a handful of staff. And so since then, I'm very proud to tell you that we've hired an amazing director. Her name is Lynn Hyde. She has a background in planning and community development. She was working for the city of Bozeman. She was doing that remotely and living in Durango. So she was local. She's been in the area for over 5 years. Likes to ski, has kids, was plugged into the community, and her technical skills and expertise were off the charts. And of all the interviews I've ever conducted in my life, I've never had one that was so compelling and so obvious that she was the right choice. But anytime you hire someone, it's always a risk and you're always gambling. And so, you hire that person and hope it works out the way you thought that it was going to. And I'm proud to say that she has absolutely exceeded expectations. And I know a lot of you that have had the opportunity to interact with her in the, I guess, 7 months that she's been on board now. I think you'll agree with me. I've had nothing but positive feedback about the work that she's doing, the culture that she's instilling in that department. A lot of you have talked to me one-on-one, and you've talked to me about concerns you've had in the community development department. Well, I guess, with the bad news comes good news is if you don't like the culture and you have a large staff exodus, guess what? You get a new culture when you have to rehire your whole staff. So that's where we are. And so we've got a great culture. We've got great positive energy. We've got a lot of optimism. And I couldn't be prouder of the work that our community development department is doing right now. They're chewing through that backlog. We got a little behind when we had the staffing shortages. And so they're working hard to get caught up on all of that. And I'm really, really pleased with the work they're doing. One of the things that they're going to focus on this year is they're doing a comprehensive review of our land use code. As many of you will recall, we just updated the land use code in 2020. But now we're going to take a hard look at it through the lens of how can we facilitate and streamline housing. And I'll just say housing, whether it's affordable, workforce, attainable, whatever definition you have for housing. We're going to look to see if there's barriers that are inherent in our land use code and what can we do to remove those. And a lot of that is tied to Proposition 123. That's a lot of state housing money that's available. But it does require that we have a streamlined, or I think the term they use in the proposition is fast-tracked process for housing development. And the target is 90 days to move an application through. And that's going to be a heavy lift for the county. So just to be frank. But we're going to take a look at it and we're going to see what we can do to try and meet that metric. So that's community development. Let me pause right there. I know a lot of times I can spend all of my 5 minutes just answering questions from this crowd about community development. Yes, sir.
Just a quick question, like, let's say on that 90-day, would you be able to do a KPI to say we're at 150% of the 90-day? In other words, you're taking, an extra 45 days, or we're at 0.9, 90%,
Yeah.
where you can run some KPIs as you achieve progress.
So Jasper, that's a great question. He was asking basically about if we're going to be able to apply some metrics to our planning processes. That's actually direction my board's given me this year. If you go look at my goals for 2024, it is to develop metrics around the planning process, maybe not as specifically as what you're asking me, but we want to look at it holistically. So on the continuum of community development, you have the easiest to the more complex, right? So you have use by right. So if single-family residence on a legal parcel of record in the state of Colorado, you can build a single-family residence. That's used by right. You don't need to come talk to the county. You can just go get a building. Well, you gotta talk to the building department. You gotta get a building permit, but you don't need a land use permit, okay? And then from there, it can go all the way up through director determination, through administrative approval, all the way up to a major permit.
Yeah.
So what we're gonna do is try to apply metrics, and we started this a couple of years ago. On the 1 year anniversary of our new code, we did do a snapshot and take a look at that. I also know there was an initiative that was conducted externally by a community member who happens to be here with us today, but also took a look at that, and that was very informative for us to look at those metrics, and that's not something that we forgot. So we're absolutely going to continue to track that. Anything else on community development? Otherwise, I'll look at my list. Last year, we built a public health department. You may have read about that in the paper. So after 75 years of being a part of the San Juan Basin Public Health District, a district that represented and served both Archuleta and the Plata counties. After a unanimous recommendation from the board of San Juan Basin Public Health in 2022, the two counties set about to establish their own public health departments. We knew in the summer of 2022 it was going to be a big lift. We did. We didn't know exactly how big it was going to be, and it turned out to be a much larger endeavor than I think any of us ever anticipated. We spent 18 full months from summer of 22 through December of 2023, learning everything that we needed to know about public health, its financing mechanisms, which are incredibly bizarre and complex. Everything about the core services, the foundational services and capabilities that a public health department has to provide to a community. And we worked through it. We worked through, everything that you can imagine, their fleet, their building, their office supplies, everything that you need to do to stand up a new department of about 48 full-time employees. And so that's what we have. On January 1st of 2024, even though it was a holiday and nobody came to work, we had a health department. We knew, we saw the dissolution of the Tri-County Health Department on the Front Range, and we knew that early on we were going to be tested. Something was going to happen. There'd be a fire of some sort that we would have to deal with. We did not know it was going to literally be on the first day of work at 5:30 in the morning on January 2nd. The warehouse had a fire. Some of you probably are familiar with that. I remember hearing about it and not ever having a public health department before. I read the story and thought, oh, that's too bad, and came to work only to find my phone ringing because now I have a role in that because we have a health department. And I didn't even know that. So our health department sprung to action. They did what they needed to do. And just so you know, we send inspectors out there. So if you ever eat in a restaurant, you are a customer of public health because we do the inspections on grocery stores and restaurants and those kinds of things. And obviously that business owner wants some kind of documentation saying that his refrigerator or freezers weren't operational and all that food was lost, so that he can make a claim to his insurance for lost business. Well, that comes from the health department. And there's also reports that were required to submit to the state. So our fire was literally a fire, and it literally happened at 5:30 on the very first working day of our brand new health department. So any questions on that? I'll pause to time check, wrap. Okay, one last thing, because it usually comes up. The radar, it's been 5 years, but we broke ground, concrete got poured. I believe concrete was poured last week, so we're underway. Very, very excited about that. I can't give you an end date on when the regional weather radar system will be operational. It will be in 2024. The radome is nearing completion with manufacturing. We're expecting the factory acceptance tests within the next week. And then we'll get that shipped out here. We'll get it put on top of the 75-foot tower, and we'll start providing real regional weather radar forecasting for the Four Corners region, and we're very excited about that. Thank you very much.
Say Chuck has the best photo in a line photo. Nobody knows how.
The only time I've ever worn a tie.
It's a mystery.
I think that's a good.
All right, Mayor Tarkington.
Really need to be on time constraints here today. We don't have a lot going on, but I also like to come and talk about land use and community development. We have a lot of that going on. So I would love to invite Nicole Killian to our next meeting. She's got a really great presentation, and I think it would be awesome to hear from her. So our numbers are pretty staggering. All right.
Jennifer Buell, is that correct?
That is correct.
All right.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I was gonna keep it short and sweet, but probably not as short as you. The city of Durango, the city council has our strategic, plan retreat, happening the beginning of March, so that'll be exciting, and for March's meeting, I can give you a little recap on what's going on. In terms of community development, we just finalized our new, let's see here, it's called the Community Development Commission now, and it is streamlined. It's our reconfiguring of boards and commissions. We streamlined 3 different our planning commission, our design review board, and the board of adjustment into one. We had 20 interviews. Councilor Woodruff, Councilor Yazzie interviewed all the candidates, and we selected 7 members to serve on that board. Their first meeting will be, well, their meeting is the 4th Monday of each month. First meeting will be February 26th, so it's exciting to kind of see that coming along. Downtown Colorado Incorporated's annual In the Game conference will take place in Durango, April 2nd through 5th. You can register now at downtowncolorado.org. Some quick things over the beginning of the year. We've gotten some great snapshots of what we did in 2023, and since we haven't had a meeting here, I thought I'd just bring up a couple things. In terms of grant programs, we've invested over $750,000 for community projects and arts, property upgrades, and infrastructure enhancements through the lodgers tax and the Renew Creates grants. Urban Renewal Authority invested $550,000 towards 5 community revitalization and housing projects. And then we received the national acclaim for Hub and Spoke Food Business Ecosystem Innovation Award. In terms of below market housing units, we have 622 units total, 49 units created in 2023. And then we have about 204 units below market units in the pipeline. Right now, what that means is we have a housing goal that we created by having 1,000 long-term affordable units by 2040. We are at 62% of that goal. And then Prop 123 commitment, where we registered for Prop 123, and we have 184 qualified units for that. We need to have 184 by 2026, and we're at 65% of that goal already. So we're doing good in that area.
Next, we have our update from our executive director, Mike French.
Morning. I'll try to get back some time. A couple of weeks ago, we had a Chairman's Circle event, and I want to thank the Chairman's Circle members that came to that event. We did a deep dive into performance of 2023 and did an outlook of 2024. Reviewed the budget. We have some takeaways that we put out on the table. I'll talk about a strategic plan, but we went over that briefly. In terms of performance review, since I started the Alliance, we've had significant growth in our budget. As you can see, we've had about 500% growth in the last 4 years. What's great is this is not on the backs of membership, right? So membership has stayed fairly consistent. As a matter of fact, we had a slight lift in 2021, and that's post-COVID. We had a dip in 2022, and then 2023 and 2024 have remained pretty consistent. This graph shows membership income. So 225,000 to 265,000, just to give you some perspective. So it's not been significant in terms of a lift compared to budget. Where that budget is coming from is grants and programming. So this year alone, we'll put in 2024, we'll put over $1 million into programming that will go out into the community. We did about 600,000 in 2023. So really excited about that. 2 things that are really driving that programming is workforce housing and workforce development. We published a plan in 2021, a 3-year strategic plan that had 3 pillars: workforce housing, workforce development, and business capacity and growth, meaning the care and feeding of the businesses that are here and how do we grow them, i.e. light industrial, La Posta, et cetera. It was time to look back after 3 years and look at our performance. And what we decided to do is rewrite the strategic plan, but we used an agile process, which is very different. I got the opportunity to participate in FLC's agile process for accreditation with the CAT School of Business, and did some learning and really understood the benefit of an agile process being very dynamic, fluid, and also very tactical in terms of execution. And based on the way we're operating with our programs, it made a lot of sense to adopt an agile plan. So that agile plan, if you're interested in it, again, we printed some up for membership. Go ahead and go in the back and take one home and cruise through it. In terms, I'm going to give a very, very brief update. We'll get better updates from Sarah and Rosalinda next month, but there's some great news. We're updating as we speak the 3-year workforce investment strategy. So that was published in June of 2022, but so much has changed already that it was worth revisiting that and republishing that. The RHA newsletter should be out this week, right, Sarah? I think.
Yeah, went out yesterday.
Went out yesterday, and the team's working on an annual report right now. So look forward to that. Great news is the Alliance just received or will receive $950,000 from DIDF in their dissolution. We'll put that towards the Catalyst revolving loan fund. So it's different than the Catalyst fund, which is a grant application, right? We'll start round 3 of the Catalyst fund application for grants in March. And again, Sarah will talk more about that and the completion of round 2. But the revolving loan fund will be a no to low, meaning like 1% or less loan out for workforce housing to help drive down the capital stack and the cost of money. So we're really excited to put that $950K into play, and we'll do that literally within the next couple of months, start building the application process. So very excited about that. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, sir.
Oh, thank you. Great job, Mike and staff. Up next, we have CEO of Agile, Chris Pearson.
Morning, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. I do tend to speak softly, so give me a sign if I'm going quiet. So I'm CEO of the biggest space company in Durango. I don't think there's too many of us. A little bit about what we do. We employ 60 people just outside of the airport. So on one side of the perimeter, we actually test rocket engines. On the other side, we actually put them together. We also have about 5 folks up in Pennsylvania. The firm's been around in different guises for about 15 years now. There's a bunch of people that have invested in the company and been our supporters over that time. I want to say thank you. Particularly our founders here. So Dowdy, I know you're not going to like this, but you can stand up a second. Dowdy's been pushing the business for over 15 years now. Thank you, Dowdy. Yeah. Okay, so what do? We do in-space propulsion. So what that means is actually changing the orbits of spacecraft in space. So that's not getting rockets off the ground. It's kind of taking over from them once we get to space. If you've been following the kind of space economy over the last 10 or 15 years, there's been a big explosion in terms of the number of applications, the amount of investment that's in space. Driven a lot by what's happened with SpaceX. They've decreased the cost to get to space like massively, the kind of cadence as well. So this is all leading to, it's hidden there, but about 60,000 spacecraft are going to be operating in space by the end of the decade. To give you an idea, when I started in the industry about 25 years ago, there had been 4,000 spacecraft that have been launched in the whole history of space. So it's really ballooning. But with all that activity in space, there comes a need to be able to move around. That's been driven by a few different things. The first one is actually getting out of space. So deorbiting the end of life's a big deal. Actually avoiding debris in space is a big deal. We're going to a lot more exotic locations now. So it used to be low Earth orbit, which is, its name suggests, it's right next to the Earth, but we're going further and further out now. There's a lot of interest in the moon at the moment with the economy there, some of the applications which are going to take off for the next 5 years or so. And then the big one for us actually is on the military side as well. So if you look and see where a lot of the threats are to our kind of national security at the moment, space is a big multiplier for our forces, both on the ground and also on the sea and in the air as well. But our adversaries actually know that as well. And if you follow the news, like you see, there are some threats there that we're trying to overcome. One of the biggest things you can do with those military assets, though, is be mobile. That's a big opportunity for us. So how is the kind of propulsion market at the moment, the supply base? It's actually pretty turgid. We basically compete against two legacy incumbents. So two big companies, Aerojet, Rocketdyne, and Moog. They're both public firms. I used to work with one of them. Because we get more and more of these spacecraft in space, there's more and more innovation. The kind of cycle time for applications is a drop in, but chemical propulsion hasn't kept up with that. So if you look at how long it takes to kind of buy thrusters, which basically engines of space, is 18 to 24 months. Agile's been able to cut that down to about 6 to 9 months. It's been huge. So speed is actually our number one differentiator. The other one is performance. So imagine you launch one of these spacecraft, you have a kind of limited amount of fuel on board. You want to be as efficient as possible to make the most out of it. We can offer about a 10% increase in efficiency over what's available now. So in terms of kind of how we do that, and this is really Dowdy's vision, which has come to pass now, is we're very vertically integrated. So we're able to do all our rocket design, actually out by airport in Durango. We print the bulk of our metal parts that go into the spacecraft. Up in Pennsylvania, we're able to bring those together and actually assemble those down here in Durango, and now actually go on test. And this test is a big differentiator for us. We just upgraded the test site. It's going through its final commissioning at the moment in Durango. It's about a $5 million investment just for that upgrade. It's a hugely complex piece of kit. We have a huge amount of instrumentation that comes off to allow us to really understand what's going on in the rocket engines and give a level of assurance for space performance that our competitors can't. But what we're able to do with all that information is now iterate, redesign, learn, build and test again. We have gone as fast as gone from a test on a Monday to do a design iteration, to print parts and actually be back on the test site the following Wednesday. That's incredible. If you look at what Aerojet and Moog do, that kind of cycle time is more like 6 to 9 minutes. That's what allows us to move really quickly. So giving an idea of what that means for our customers, I'll just do a couple of these. So our first contracts were actually to deliver or to provide propulsion to lunar landers that deliver payload to the surface of the moon for NASA. So this is actually a commercial contract. So in the past, NASA would own the spacecraft, NASA would fly the spacecraft. But in this case, there are firms that literally take that cargo and land it and operate it on the moon for NASA. So those companies are actually paid for the amount of mass they put on the moon. Without propulsion system, we're able to put more mass on the moon. There's basically less fuel you need to take to actually land on the moon. This customer, Astrobotic, that turns out to be extra revenue in the $25 to $50 million range. So it's a huge kit. We do work in military. I'll kind of leave that to today. But on the commercial side, we actually do a little bit of launch vehicle work as well. So I don't think the upper stage is kind of really noisy one that gets you off the ground, but the final stage, it kind of gets to the final orbit where these spacecraft are injected. We're doing a lot of parts there for Blue Origin. Jeff Bezos' firm, so it's a New Glenn launch vehicle. This is a really pleasing one to me. We took the first contract for them for the first 3 rockets back in 2022. The end of last year, we got a reorder for that for the next, I think it's 10 rockets worth. It's over $10 million worth towards. This kind of repeat business is key for us. It shows that customers are happy with the hardware that's being delivered. This is a really bad chart, and I didn't see this until this morning. I apologize. Bookings and revenue are kind of difficult to distinguish here. So I'm going to kind of point to them. But revenue in 2020 was only 120K. The company did a bit of a pivot from being a test services firm to actually getting into product there. This is the first year we actually began to do revenue in products, so 120K. The following year was almost 6 million. Year after that was just a shade under 9, and then last year we just closed the books on last year 11.9 million. So it's really fantastic for us. That's been backed up by orders as well. We're going into this year with, I think it's over $20 million in the backlog. So it's really satisfying. So in terms of where that kind of revenue comes from, I talked a little bit about hardware. That's about 80% of our revenue. Our 3D manufacturing, our 3D metal printing, sorry. We do some outside work there for other aerospace and defense applications. We're getting into propulsion systems now, so not just the engines, but the entire systems, including tanks as well. It's well diversified. In terms of the sales funnel that we're attacking, it's over 800 million now, and over 400 million of that is actually what we're attacking this year. It's pretty evenly split between commercial and civil being NASA, but about half of that is military. So going back to this kind of need, we're seeing a big push from the military side to be able to move assets around on orbit. In terms of customers, we began life with the kind of lunar customers, I said, with the commercial ones. They're a little bit less risk averse. They really needed the performance to be able to close their business models. Around about last year, we really began to get a lot more of the blue chips. So some contracts now with Lockheed Martin, Venture Blue Origin, Aerospace as well. But there's still an awful lot of the market that we're not going after. So at the moment, we think in terms of spacecraft customers, we've attacked about 40% of the market. We're already trying to expand BD to be able to go after that. On the military side, there is an opportunity outside the spacecraft as well. So big spacecraft, they're kind of doing a job in like an orbital regime. There's a whole class of applications to actually provide missile defense for the military. So now think things like rogue ICBMs for kind of North Korea. There is an opportunity there to be able to engage with those above the atmosphere. They need propulsion. And that's a big area for this. We've got one contract there, but we're trying to grow that side of the market. And then these products are sticky. I've been in industry for over 25 years now, and the best way to win business is to kind of execute on the business you have. It's a very small kind of market. I find that there are people with a different business card that I grew up 15, 20 years ago that kind of come back. If you execute, and you execute actually on the kind of tougher programs where there's been an issue, and well, right, then we've got through it together. Quite often, it could be a problem in like our supply chain. Very often, there's a problem at the spacecraft end of things where they spec'd our propulsion system at the beginning of the program, but things change. There'll be a difference in requirements that's been flowed down from them to us. We have to react to that. We can react to that. We can solve the problem on schedule and get in space. That customer never goes anywhere again. So these are really sticky contracts with customers. Okay, so in terms of where we're at with fundraising, it's been an amazing growth story. It's going to continue, but we want to accelerate that. So I could get through this year, as CEO, I could get through this year and be kind of cash neutral. The contracts that we have on the books are generating cash and coming in. But if we do that, we miss an opportunity. We're going to be kind of bouncing around and just kind of growing organically. There's an opportunity for us to really ride the wave now. So the business development team, to give you an idea, we've got one full-time person. That's it. So we want to have a Series A round, and the first use of funds is to kind of scale that business development team. The second one is on our offering. So we'll be actually off to the market to generate that revenue. What's happened is the thrusters that are being sold to market, they really kind of follow the initial customers that get the job. We didn't have any IRAD funds in those days. So the thrusters that we have qualified, the thrusters that we're offering to market, are not necessarily the ones that have the best medium ROI. So using some of the funds to accelerate some of the other products we have is really going to grow things. And the last one is growing a hardware business is not easy. You have to make sure you have that structure in place. Space is no exception. This year, we're looking at doubling revenue. So it's 12 million in 23, we're doing 24 this year. That sounds great. It's a great problem to have, but it's hard. We're going to have to scale things. We're going to have to get ahead. We're actually gonna have a robust infrastructure to be able to keep that rate of growth going. I want to hire ahead. I want to put a bit of redundancy in place with some non-production capabilities. So a little bit of an idea of how that Series A would kind of fuel the growth of the business. This is the growth we've had to date over the last few years. Out to 2028, we're seeing that we can get to over $100 million in revenue spread between these different lines of business. But there's an awful lot of upside here. So I mentioned in terms of the size of the market, we've been dominating the spacecraft world. We think this missile defense world could be 50% of the market opportunity on top of that. We're getting into propulsion systems, providing propulsion tanks. We just won our first contract for that. These forecasts assume like a pretty wild rate of success. Tanks after engines is actually the other biggest choke point in spacecraft. We still haven't flown in space, but we have, I think, 3 different customers who have hardware that they're integrating on their vehicles, which are going to fly that in next year. I do think it's amazing that customers have put as much faith in us without that flight crew heritage. It's pretty rare. But as we actually fly in space, as we're successful, there's going to be an opportunity for us to increase our pricing. We haven't really built that in it's purely inflationary. There's a lot of opportunity with kind of foreign sales. If you look at if you look at where the flashpoints are potentially around the world, missile defense, military space is a big deal for countries like Japan, South Korea. Thinking about potential conflicts in the China Sea, there's a lot of opportunity for us to do some licensing deals there. And there's obviously the whole classified world as well. So we think this is a pretty conservative outlook. A bit of a quick summary. The company's got great traction. These were the revenue numbers I was kind of pointing to here. All was underneath. You can see last year we almost did double the year before in terms of new business. We're going into 2024 with a huge amount of momentum. So we did $20.7 million of orders in the whole last year. Since the 1st of January this year, we've booked almost $5 million, and I've got another 1.1 in negotiation. So just since the 1st of January, we've got another $6 million of orders, which is coming. The business is absolutely flying. We do need to raise this A round, spending probably about 80% of my time. Often Corey thinks that's enough, but about 80% of my time speaking to investors. We have a number of potential leads that have been pretty advanced discussions where we have a pretty robust data up, a lot of material there, which is being thrown around. And the feedback's been pretty positive. I think I mentioned most of this. Probably the only other one that's worth mentioning is like on the team side. Last year was a big change year. I actually came in January. It feels like a lot longer than a year. I was lucky enough to bring a couple of folks with me from the previous startups. So this is my 3rd, maybe even 4th space scale up. Been lucky enough to grow a couple of businesses in the front range, led to acquisition. The last one, my CFO, has now joined us. She's a big part of the team, as was my head of business development as well. So it's a really good team, really good team. And hopefully, I'm not over. I wanted to leave some time. Chris. I'm here afterwards.
Obviously, great things happening. It's agile. Oh, Chris is going to stick around for Q&A afterwards if you do have any questions about agile. Next up is Dr. Nate Peach.
Thank you, boy. They didn't give you the agenda. That's a tough act to follow. The rocket's in line, unfortunately. Thank you. This is a version of the talk I gave last month at the Southwest Economic Outlook. If we take a time, I'll kind of speed through some things, but All the data is publicly available. I'll be around afterwards if you have any questions as well. So let's jump into it. So what I want to do over the next couple of minutes is kind of place our little corner of Colorado within the macro environment. I was driving in today and they were talking about inflation. Where is inflation? Where do we think it's going? When is the Fed going to lower rates? So we're in this environment. One of the big things that we've kind of struggled with collectively since coming out of the COVID pandemic is inflation, right? It's every month new numbers come out and we want them to be a little bit lower than they were. So in this first chart, this is a simple graph. It's a simple index. The red line is the consumer price index. That's the most prevalent way that inflation is measured. It's not the only way, but it's the most prevalent. So it starts over here, April 2020, starts at 100. That's the baseline. Fast forward to today, or this is November data. And the way that you interpret that red line going from 100 to 120, our cost of living has increased by 20% since the pandemic. Right, so in that food, groceries, used cars, energy, all that stuff is up 20% since we pulled out of the COVID recession. The blue line is our average hourly earnings. There's different ways to measure income. This is just one, and it's obvious from the line that it's consistently below the red line. Right, so our cost of living is up about 20%, and our wages are about 13.5%. Couple caveats. This is macro data, so it's looking at the entire economy. It's not necessarily looking at our corner of Colorado. So this is the bad news, right? We are losing ground. I'll come to some pessimism that we've been feeling since the pandemic. We're very pessimistic. That might be turning, but we're very pessimistic for the state of the economy. And a lot of that probably has to do with this, again, personal finances. If you recreate the chart, and I've chosen to pull that starting point back to 2010, same exact chart, different starting point. I chose 2010, I'm going to come back to that in a few slides. But the good news is, if you go back to 2010, what we see is that blue line is consistently above the red line, right? And so that's a mark of an economy that's delivering on raising people's welfare over the medium to long term. Not necessarily year to year. Obviously, COVID was a huge disruption in many, many ways. But over the long term, this is the mark of a healthy economy. Our wages are increasing more than our cost of living, right? So that's an increase in our economic well-being. Again, with the caveats, you have to go back. This is 2010. I could have started at different points, but long run, medium run process. To bring it to our local corner, this comes from a survey the city administered last year. I'm going to cherry pick some data from it to tell a story. You can get the data, it's all publicly available. And there's a few things out of this that were eye-opening to me, right? So it's a survey, various things about living in Durango, the quality of life, amenities, yada, yada, yada. The two things that I'll talk about for the moment that were surprising is compared to similar communities, we ranked lower in employment opportunities. So you ask Jane Doe on the street, what do you think of employment opportunities in Durango? I'm not so psyched. I'm not so psyched about my prospects. Cost of living, much lower. I don't find that surprising. Durango's expensive. We know that it's expensive and it's become more expensive over the last few years. With the employment opportunity, what I found surprising is when I think about this room, right, and then people represented here, there's amazing businesses, there's amazing opportunities. We have a very robust healthcare center, our healthcare industry. We have a rocket company. We have all kinds of cool stuff happening, and yet people don't recognize that for one reason or another. We are rural. I think sometimes we kind of fall into this trap of like comparing ourselves to the Front Range. When we want to, right? When it's, oh, they have it better over there, or maybe other urban areas, but we're not that, right? We're a rural area. As I thought about the employment story more though, I thought it's not just what am I doing for work, right? It's not just do you like your job? Are you able to put your skills and talents to good use? This is a slide that I got from Mike that actually he got from Bob Allen, so it's not mine. But this mirrors that slide earlier going back to 2010. And the story, again, is pretty obvious. Blue line, is median household income. This is for the county. What are we bringing home? What's your raise this year? How much you gonna be making next year? And what you would see very clearly is the red line, median home price is flipping 2013, there's a small gap, but now that gap is getting bigger, right? The gap is getting bigger, and I think that is at the root of this employment opportunity thing, right? It's one thing to have a job, it's another thing to have a job that pays the bills and is keeping up with the bills, and we see that that's not happening at the county level. So I think that's part of the story. That's part of the story with not being enthusiastic about the employment opportunities in the area. This beautiful family, this is a new family to Durango. The good news, they love being here. The bad news, they're among the worst dressed in the worst dressed town. And just to put this kind of in perspective, so the hard thing is it's really hard to get local inflation data. One of the challenges that kind of rural economies have is a lot of the data that we might want comes out with a very significant lag. If you want to know what GDP did, you have to wait a full year. So there's a big lag, but what's nice is the MIT has a living wage that they put out every year, and you can slice and dice it however you want. Single person, 2 people working, 1 person working, whatever. So family of 4, we have a representative family of 4. I'm gonna forget the exact numbers, but in 2022, living wage for a family of 4 in Durango was $98,000. Fast forward to 2023. Oh shoot, it was 106 something. Point being, this family needs a 9% raise to keep up with the cost of living. So that living wage is looking at everything from childcare to food to transportation, and you could we could nitpick the methodology, but about a 10% raise to keep up with inflation just over the last year. And for most of us, that's a pretty significant raise, right? That's the raise when you get a promotion. Right? It's not necessarily the raise you get for just kind of doing normal things. So again, this family, what it represents is losing ground if they're not getting a 9% raise. And the other thing worth being aware of is these are mid-career professionals, right? So when they come to town, they're not accepting entry-level positions, right? So they're at a higher starting point. Yes, they want a raise, who doesn't? But they're able to weather it a little bit better than someone that's just beginning their career. Just beginning your career, you're probably not coming with equity from another home. So that previous graph with the divergence of income and home prices even harder. So there's a wedge, I think, with young professionals trying to get started, trying to build their family, their career, their life here. That maybe mid-career professionals don't face, and then obviously people that are more senior in their careers as well. In terms of let's call this good news as an economist. So this is a slide. It's the percent of burdened households in the county. It's a 5-year estimate that goes up to 2022. The scale's a little hard to read, but basically dark green is bad. Dark green means there's more people in your county that are burdened. The way that this is measured, if you're spending more than 30% on your housing, homeowner or renter, you are considered a burdened household. What I want to point out from this graph is that Durango is not unique in this regard, right? Colorado pops in the middle of the country. Bright green, high numbers. We don't see these in the Midwest. The bright green is showing up Colorado, you go down to Arizona and the coastal areas. These are places with very high amenities, very strong demand side pressure on housing. People want to live there. In terms of migration since the pandemic, these are a lot of areas that have seen very strong migration. So significant demand side pressure. If we were to look at all these counties, Plata County is in the 85th percentile. So only 15% of the counties in the US have a higher percent of burdened households than we do. But we're not unique. It tends to be places like us, Boulder County, Mesa County, and so on. So we do have an affordable housing issue. I love hearing all the things that we're doing to combat that. And I think that's going to show up here in a minute. To jump to this next slide, though, this is a source of optimism for me. This is the third quarter of 2023, the percent of the population was subprime credit. And just like the previous graph, darker green is what you want to avoid. You want to be a lighter shade. You want fewer people with subprime credit. And in a lot of ways, this mirrors the previous graph, or excuse me, the previous map, right? So the places with affordable housing, the Southeast, have people that are really struggling to probably pay for that housing. We're not seeing that. So there is a glass half full. Don't hear me say that housing's affordable, that anybody can make it work, but this is a sign that we're doing okay. If you were to make this map dynamic, the trends are good. They're either stable or decreasing. And especially if you look at La Plata County as well as the surrounding counties, right? When I first looked at the data, I was afraid that La Plata would be light green and then this with a donut of green. Not the case. So that I take as optimism. I think that as optimism. The other findings from that city survey that were especially fascinating to me were these. So we have challenges, but when people are asked, "Are you going to stay here?" they say yes. And I think it's because a lot of the initiatives that we've talked about, the cool things that are happening with affordable housing, the cool things that are happening with businesses growing in very new markets that were, I mean, literally science fiction years ago. I think people see that and they respond to that. So they want to stay here. They're willing to stay here. They know that there's challenges. The second one that I love is recommended living in Durango to someone who asked. We're lower. I think this is a function of my favorite bumper sticker. Colorado's full. I hear Kansas is nice. Don't let the secret out. This place is horrible. Don't move here. But our actions speak louder than our words. We're gonna stay. We're saying we want to stay and make this place a little bit better. For the year ahead, I expect there to be kind of normal macroeconomic growth, somewhere in the 2 to 3%. I'm pretty optimistic of the year ahead. We do have big things on the horizon. There could any number of challenges we might face. I think we're in for tight local labor markets for the year ahead. Low unemployment, strong wage growth, great for workers, a challenge for firms trying to find talent. We know that we're in this new world of very scarce talent. So there's that tension. And then I think we'll continue to enjoy both the blessings, high amenities, a wonderful place to be, awesome people, with the curses of a high quality of life, expensive, competitive, and so on. So with that, one more time.
Thank you. Next, we have Dr. Chester.
Great, and I'm gonna set my timer so I don't go over my 8 minutes. First of all, thank you so much for those wonderful presentations. My job here is to say, how are we gonna grow that workforce? So that we have rocket scientists and we make sure that we keep our students here for the future economy. A little bit about the district, in case you don't know, we are considered mountain resort and rural. We cover about 1,200 square miles. You might not know that. These are a little bit about our demographics. We have over 900 employees, so sometimes we're considered the second largest employer in La Plata County. We have about 5,000 students. Our main mission, everything we do, is to help every one of our students find their ikigai. Have you heard that term, ikigai? That's that Japanese term meaning that perfect career for you. The one that melds your passions, your interests, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can get paid a living wage for. That's our mission. And in order to do that, we've identified with many of you in this room, as well as our 900 employees, all of our 5,000 students throughout the community. These are the competencies that we want every single one of our students to have so that they can do those careers that we haven't even identified yet. Like, who would have thought we had what you heard about with space technologies? That big rock on the bottom, though, is we also need strong content mastery. Because if you can't do reading and math at the level you need to when you leave us, you're not going to be able to be a rocket scientist. So we want to celebrate some things you may not have heard. We have dramatically increased our scores in the Durango School District. We are in the top 20%. We're one of only 3 districts in the state that has actually gone up in reading and math since the pandemic. You hear all the national news about going down. We're actually going up. We've been able to dramatically increase math scores. 93% of our kids are either doing concurrent enrollment, college classes, or AP classes. 64% of our kids are in 86 extracurricular activities, and that's growing. Niche.com, have you seen that? That's like sort of the premier area people look at to see, do I want to buy a home in an area? 3 years ago, we were 101st in the state out of 178. We are now 24, just in a couple short years, and are dramatically increasing that. Feel free to go on to niche.com and give your review. That really helps us. The Attorney General is here and thought we're doing amazing things to help with social, emotional, behavioral health. And what this shows here is these are the districts in every single area in the state that are scoring the highest. The blue means that. So you can see we're blue. You can go in the Colorado Sun, see the map, and you'll see we're blue in every single area. In order to make that portrait of a graduate actually happen, we do have a really strong strategic plan. I think we nailed that to many of you. You can go on our website and get that just briefly. In order to make that happen, we need world-class learning for all of our students. So that means, again, really strong curriculum, strong intervention systems, targeted support for our learners that need help, advanced learning for all of our gifted learners, and also making sure that we're making those portrait of graduate competencies really happen. So a lot of project-based learning and service learning. We also are keyed in to making sure all of our students have tons of career exploration opportunities so that we can make sure that they know what they want to do and what they don't want to do. And so to do that, we have career awareness from elementary through high school. I'll highlight that. Career exploration, extracurricular opportunities, we're doing more and more. We are strongly committed to sustainability education. We talked about soil, and then global connections. Our kids are part of a larger world, and we want to make sure that they understand their impact of that. And of course, we need to optimize our organization. So we are working really hard on productivity and process improvement so we can refine our processes, streamline our expenses, so we can put that back into classrooms. And also working hard on our diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging work. You saw our demographics. It's really important that all of our families feel like they are included. Sustainability is big for us. So I just wanted to highlight this quickly. We have had a sustainability committee that meets monthly ever since 3 years ago. We have green teams in every single school. Energy audits, benchmarking, planning, all of our building projects are meeting the CHIPS requirements, which are the high performance standards. And then our soil sustainability outdoor inspiration lab, if you haven't heard about that yet. We're saving 1,800 metric tons per year with our new energy performance plan. You'll see over the next year, we are putting solar in 8 schools, doing a lot of building envelope work, transforming into LED lighting to make sure that we're more efficient. Have you seen the soil lab? Okay, I really want to invite you out there. This is like green lighting, this teacher's amazing ideas. He's raised almost $700,000 in grants and in private funding to make this happen for our entire community. So check it out. Career Tech Ed, 86% of our kids are in career and tech ed programming right now. We had 4 career pathways about 4 years ago. Now we have 14. The commissioner came recently and said, like, my gosh, this doesn't even feel like you're in high school. And that includes Big Picture High School and Durango High School. So just gives you an example of all the different career pathways and the skilled trades and the trades that are more in the engineering, automation, computer science fields, culinary, interior design. And we're very clear with our students in advising what that means. Part of that is our impact. Have you seen our impact building? Please come through. Career Innovation Center, which is really meant to maximize all of these exploration opportunities for our kids. All those 14 career pathways, especially the collisions among pathways. So if we're doing engineering and graphic design and maybe something in culinary hospitality, how do we help our students have real experiences? So an example, we had an opening the other night. There's our award-winning robotics team. They just won almost $2 million in scholarships last Saturday. And so they're going to state. They won the state award for inspiration. We also, just quickly, we are doing youth science, which is really helping kids find their natural talents and aptitudes so they can be more informed. And the Southwest Colorado Ed Collaborative, Jessica Morrison's here, who is the executive director. We're doing a lot with them to make sure we have a career platform, job shadowing, lots of experiences for teachers. As you all probably know, again, 92% of execs say kids don't have those soft skills, right, that they need. That's those portrait graduate skills. We call them power skills, not soft skills. So we're highly committed to providing experiences. So last thing I want to talk about is where we're going. We had a long-range planning committee meet all last year, and some things that were recommended to the board. Erica Brown is here. I'm sure she's happy to talk with you later, but we have some big needs. We need buildings for our facilities and IT department, big picture in the hub. Right now, we're leasing facilities because of selling the building. We have about $120 million in deferred maintenance. You probably have heard some rumors. We are looking to replace Florida Mesa with a new school of Three Springs, where all the population is. And that is a building that needs a ton of work. We have not been able to buy the furniture that we need throughout the district for the last 25 years. We want to renovate Escalante. Of course, employee housing is huge for us. And then also increasing salaries and wages. We have been able to increase salaries and wages 20% over the last 3 years to compete with New Mexico with $50,000 beginning teacher. Not enough, as you all probably know. And so these were some recommendations to the board. The other thing is, just so you're aware, the state of Colorado provides zero funding for facilities and capital projects to school districts. So the only way we can do that is either with community support or take that from our general fund that also needs to go into wages. So Erica, anything you want to say?
No, that was a great way to recap a really big story in very few minutes.
So anyway, we'll be here if you have any questions. I invite you to come and see what's going on. We've got robotics teams, maker spaces, really cool stuff, destination imagination teams. We're trying to create those experiences for kids so they can live out the portrait dream. Thank you. Okay, I'm 30 seconds.
Oh. Two very quick announcements. While Jeff is making his way up to give his announcement, I'll point out that I didn't mention it earlier and I should have. You all know Durango Rocks is coming up on the 29th. And I point that out because in addition to all the other awesome businesses and people in town who are up for awards, the Alliance is up for Nonprofit of the Year. And I think that's a testament to Mike and all the staff, Sarah, Rosalinda, JJ, great job. Come check out Durango Rocks, where we will keep our fingers crossed for the Alliance. Now, Jeff Seville.
So I'm Jeff Seville. I'm the director of the Career and Life Design Center at Fort Lewis College. Go to Skyhawks. Two quick shout outs really quick. I want to shout out to the Agile Space Systems. They hire and bring a lot of our interns into their organization, which is super special to our students. Another shout out is to Dr. Nate Peach. He's one of our favorite faculty members on campus. Our students love him, and all the economics, finance, everybody loves Nate Peach. So I'm here to talk very briefly about our Career and Internship Expo coming up. Last year, I had 107 employers there. I got in a lot of trouble with the fire department or police chief Brett Deming. So this year, we're gonna have to throttle it back to about 95 employers, which kind of breaks my heart because last year we turned down over 40 employers to be able to come, but we just ran out of space. So this year, we expect about just over 400 students to attend. I do have some flyers that you can grab on your way out to sign up for the expo. And I also want to talk a little bit to carry on the career readiness themes. I want to talk a little bit about what we're seeing from our perspective. We have a platform called Handshake. We approve jobs every single day. Our last 30 days rolling average jobs approval on the platform is 506. That's on a nationwide basis. Currently, right now, we have just between 150 and 200 jobs in the district area of Durango, what we call the district area. So we're not seeing the uptick that we were seeing about a year and a half ago of local jobs, which kind of follows what Nate was saying as well. So I also want to announce that we have our graduation coming up in May 8th, I think it is, Steve, somewhere around there.
Absolutely.
And we have we're thinking just about over 400 graduates happening. So graduating from our college. So We're trying to keep as many of those students, it's a big goal that we have in Career and Life Design Center, to keep as many of those students here locally. So we all obviously need the help and support from all of our employers in the area, so. And then one last thing I want to say, and hopefully I'm not speaking out of turn, Tommy. But we are gonna open up our doors in our center to help all the Open Sky people. I get emotional about this because there's 150 people losing their jobs. So we decided just yesterday in the day, we're gonna build a lot of resources for them. We're gonna open up our doors to come in and do resume reviews, cover letter reviews, interviewing skills development, how to do a one-way interview, which is a big thing now. And so anybody that has associations with the Open Sky people, please let them know that we're getting ready to announce this and make it available to the community. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Jeff, for all that you do. I want to also put in a plug for Handshake. I love all of you. And when you send me your jobs to find these students, I'm happy to do it. I really am. I'm being serious. But Handshake doesn't just leave it with me, it leaves it with a couple thousand people who check Handshake. So I would encourage you and a lot of times I'll reply back, hey, you want to get this in Handshake? And then I either get silence. Or what's Handshake? I would encourage you to seek out Handshake. I will still help you, but Handshake is where it's at because it does, all of our students, everyone has access to it. Okay, next meeting, March 12th, 2024. We went 9 minutes over. I apologize. Thank you, everybody. I will see you before next month, but if I don't, have a great month. Thank you, Mike.